In Great Britain, accusations and apologies of anti-Semitism and racism are rife in the election year. And now government wants to denounce legal but extremist organizations and is receiving criticism from within its own ranks once again. Given the virulent debates about identity politics, what can one say publicly in Great Britain? When is a statement anti-Semitic, Islamophobic or racist? And who decides what is acceptable and in keeping with British values? Such questions are currently being discussed more intensively in the UK than they have been for a long time, which is as much a consequence of the tensions surrounding the Gaza war as a harbinger of the general election later this year. Hardly a week goes by without a politician or important party sympathizer having to apologize for an untenable statement. At the center of the latest media whirlwind is Frank Hester, an entrepreneur and a major donor to the Conservative Party. At the beginning of the week, The Guardian happily revealed that Hester had made defamatory comments about the dark-skinned Labour MP Diane Abbott in a private conversation in 2019. Abbott should be shot, Hester is said to have said, that she makes you hate all black women. The businessman apologized, and although he did not deny the statements, he did deny that they were racist. Rishi Sunak's government also initially maneuvered until the black trade minister and representative of the right wing of the party, Kemi Badenoch, spoke plainly. Then Sunak also brought himself to speak of a racist statement, although he rejected the demand for return of Hester's donations amounting to about £10 million. As unacceptable as the verbal attacks against Abbott are, the London MP and supporter of former Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn has also made a name for herself with problematic statements. A guest article she wrote in The Observer a year ago is reminiscent of the anti-Semitic tendencies that the Labour opposition is still grappling with today. Abbott wrote at the time that Irish and Jews could not be victims of racism because they were white. The parliamentarian apologized later, but nevertheless, Labour leader Keir Starmer suspended Abbott's parliamentary group membership because of anti-Semitism, which is why she had to sit as a single mask in the House of Commons to this day. The turmoil surrounding Hester and Abbott is not an isolated incident. Ahead of the Rochdale constituency by-election in February, Labour had to part ways with official candidate Azhar Ali because he had spread anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. In an audio recording of an internal meeting, the candidate said that Israel deliberately allowed the Hamas terrorist attack on October 7th in order to then take tough action against the Palestinians. Starmer, who prides himself on stamping out anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, hesitated for days before ditching the comrade. A short time later, the then Conservative MP Lee Anderson claimed on camera that the Muslim Labour mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, was controlled by Islamists. Sunak shied away from calling the completely baseless statement Islamophobic for a long time, but excluded Anderson from the group. To Sunak's horror, he has now defected to the right-wing Reform UK party and accuses the Conservatives of restricting freedom of expression. The inquisitorial tone with which the Conservatives and Labour make accusations against the other side contrasts with the hesitancy with which they react to problematic statements from within their own ranks. Olbi Amankona, a Tory politician and presenter on the right-wing broadcaster GB News, recommended a simple test to his party colleagues. A statement about a Muslim or dark-skinned person should be rejected as Islamophobic or racist if one would condemn an analogous statement about a Jew as anti-Semitic. And amid the heated atmosphere, Michael Gove, the minister responsible for community coexistence, presented a new official definition of extremism on Thursday. In the future, the government wants to use this extremism label to brand right-wing extremist and Islamist organizations that operate within the limits of the rule of law, but whose ideology is based on violence, hatred, or intolerance, and that wants to negate the fundamental rights of others or undermine parliamentary democracy. An so-called Administration Competence Centre will now take a closer look at groups such as the British National Socialist Movement or the Muslim Association of Britain, which Gove described as an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood. The new definition of extremism is not a law, but merely an official directive. Therefore, the legal basis for the controversial pro-Palestinian demonstrations do not change. Anyone who ends up on the blacklist of civil servants will not be banned, but will be public pilloried and no longer allowed to work with government agencies. While Labour Vice President Angela Rayner stated in the House of Commons that it would be necessary to wait and see how the blacklist would be handled in practice, a striking number of Conservatives from the right wing of the party expressed fundamental reservations. Miriam Cates explained that the definition of extremism is so vague that it could one day also include gender-critical feminists or strict Christians. And former Migration Minister Robert Jenrick said that the measure did not go far enough to combat real extremists. At the same time, citizens and organizations risked being targeted by the state and its officials who merely expressed uncomfortable and, let's say, contrary opinions. Well, at least the MPs in the British House of Commons are getting more money now. The diets, as we call them, are rising by 5.5% to £91,346 per year, and therefore faster than inflation of 4%. The increase also applies to the cabinet led by Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, who is considered the richest head of government in British history. Sunak's spokesman confirmed this to journalists last Friday. However, he pointed out that some members of the government had decided in the past not to accept salary increases or not to take full advantage of them. According to official figures, Sunak received a salary of £80,807 as Prime Minister in the 22-23 financial year, in addition to his MP salary. Of that, he claimed £75,440. In total, Sunak taxed income of more than £2.2 million, the majority of which was capital gains. The Sunday Times estimated the fortune of the Prime Minister and his wife Akshata Murthy at £529 million in the Rich List 2023. The majority of their assets come from Murthy. She holds just under 1% of the shares in the Indian IT giant Infosys, which her father co-founded. The Prime Minister's wealth always plays a role in political debate, and critics accuse the former investment banker and hedge fund manager of having no sense of the situation of citizens struggling with high costs of living because of his wealth. And if you want to know more, the next video is right here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.